This show was created with the sole purpose of being able to inspire other people and to be able to give back.
What else have I thought that's unattainable that I can do now?
What other self-limiting beliefs do you have?
Yeah, and it really.
What limitations are you placing on yourself?
Yeah, it really made me look at everything else. It's like, fuck, maybe, because before that, $100 million yacht was in the same category as a $200,000 car. It was just unattainable. I didn't realize like how far.
Not my world.
Right, it just wasn't. Yeah, but once I started taking bites of that, I started realizing the depth and the breadth of like how big that world really is and how many levels there are to it. And then I started becoming more like into it and obsessed with it. And like, okay, where can I go with this? Where do I fit? How can I get what I want to play with in my life experience level? Like, how can I make this work? And dude, but it started with that car. It started with pulling that car off the wall and in my driveway and into my life. And dude,
it's
it
so
fucking changed
interesting
everything.
too when you think about like, if you're a kid, and like I grew up broke, just like, welfare, done my own since I was 15, but same kind of thing. Like if you take somebody in that situation, having a Lamborghini is literally the exact same as like you right now having $100 million yacht. Like it seems like, wow. And looking back, you're like, not even close. Like somebody could get here. But the mindset difference, the belief set difference, and the paradigm shift that has to take place is identical.
Yeah.
Because those people, literally there's zero chance in their mind, that like, I mean, people like that right now, that it's like for them to try to figure out how to pay their rent $1,000 a month is like, they can't do it. They can't even wrap their head around it. And so like to take their mind to that place, what's funny to me is I actually think that somebody that's made it to where you've made it, to go to that next step is actually way easier. I mean, it sounds like, it doesn't feel that way because it never feels that way for us when we're in it.
Yeah.
But it really, truly, like the mindset, the development, and going to that place, at least you're already conditioned to a place that you know that you can get there or that you can expand. Whereas those people, like, they're up against a wall. They don't even know that they're capable of it.
Well, I think that's why they say like the first million is the hardest, because you have to develop tools to get to that. But once you have those tools, now you're like, okay, I built a little house. I'm going to build something else. I'm going to build something else. And then you become a carpenter, and then you become a contractor, then you become, a developer. And it's, that's really the evolution of it. But before you have those tools, even if you see them around, you're like, I don't know what to do with this. But
it's interesting too. I mean, like I always think of in myself when I'm taking on like new business opportunities, I always ask myself, like, am I fishing in a big enough pond? Because I know what my goals are. I know where I want to land. But is there big enough fucking fish in that pond? Because if not, like, don't waste your time. Sure, I can go catch fish all day in that pond. I'll probably catch the biggest ones. And you will too, and whatever. But we got to ask ourselves, like, all the time, like, hey, if this is where we want to, why are we fishing in this little pond?
Yeah.
Because the fish are only so big.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, but it's just interesting that, like, to me, I feel like for you to get the confidence to be able to do that, you have to have some of those wins. Like for me, I absolutely had to have some of those wins. And now people are like, man, Max, you got balls, you're going to do it. I'm like, no, but the thing is, it's really the same work. Sometimes it gets easier. When I started flipping houses, I was flipping houses and make 10, 15, 20,000 bucks a pop. And it was like a commission, like a real estate commission, right? But I'm having to buy the house to get the real estate commission. So it was like, that was a lot of work. And you're working with first-time home buyers that can't qualify. They're chinsing out on every little thing. Oh, it doesn't have blinds in the house. I'm going to beat you up for another 2G. It doesn't, people think that those are the easy deals. That's why everybody and their dog's a house flipper for, a couple $100,000 home. But how many people are flipping multi-million-dollar homes? A lot less. Why? Because they think, oh, it's way harder. Bullshit. It's actually way easier. Like, that's one thing that kind of accelerated my thought process was when I started transitioning from starter homes, flipping homes, to just being the luxury flipper in the valley. It was like, sure, we have more risk because we're outlying more money, and there's a smaller buying pool or set of buyers. But man, you're working with cash buyers that don't have to get FHA loans, that don't have to work off appraisals, Who gives a shit if it doesn't break?
Your clients are so much easier to
Yeah, they
work
don't
with.
give a shit if the house isn't painted or if this isn't touched up. Doesn't matter. They got maintenance people do all that shit. Like business got so much better, so much easier. And now I'm doing the exact same amount of work or way less, and I got 2-3 more zeros at the end of every payday. Hallelujah. Right?
Yeah, it changed the market, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, but I feel like in every industry we do that. You know, we learn a little bit and then we realize, like, man, am I just playing too small? Like,
Well, it's also too, like, sometimes, like, we usually don't work anymore now with clothing brands just starting up because there's so much they don't know. And for us to give them the information takes so much time that sometimes we're like, hey, I'll do a phone call with you to tell you everything you know, but it's $500 an hour.
Yeah.
And even though I know it's a fucking good deal for them and it's totally worth it for them, they don't know enough to even know that. And they just think $500 an hour, so much money. I'm like, dude, this is going to save you $50,000 your first year.
easy.
Like,
Yeah.
but they don't know that. So we started just not working with new brands anymore. And we started working with only brands, or we tell them, like, hey, here's the basics. Here's some free knowledge on YouTube. Go check out the stuff. Here's some basics. Go do it for 6 months, a year. Come back to us. And every time they do that,
Then
they're
they
like,
really appreciate it.
oh my God, because they run into these problems. They realize that it's way harder than they think. And then they understand the value that we bring. Now they're like, okay, I get it now.
Go let them work with some shitty people first, and then then they
Dude.
realize how good it is to work
Yeah.
with people that are good.
100%.
Yeah, and thankfully in our industry, the apparel, one of the best things we have going for us is that everyone else fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So for us to, like,
Yeah.
just be good and get the client what they want,
Yep.
a lot of times they're like, oh, you didn't do anything special, you just got us what you want. We're like, hold on, you really should work with somebody else first.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, that's
Yeah.
actually a big deal to get you what you
In
want.
this industry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny too because I'm sure you guys get it all the time, but I get people always reaching out, want mentorship or want to learn how to start a business or where should I start? I'm young, I'm ambitious, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's interesting to me because I always tell them, like, there's so many industries that I've worked with just as a consequence of the other business projects that I'm doing, like HVAC or plumbing or multiple subcontractors and different, that just overall the entire industry blows.
Yeah.
They suck at tons of service industry guys, right? They don't know how to schedule properly, they don't know their costs, they don't run a business very well.
Super inconvenient.
Yeah, super inconvenient. There's tons of that stuff. And I always tell these guys, like, man, these are really simple businesses. Like, you don't have to know that much. You just have to get really good at doing what you say you're going to do, setting expectations properly, and then just performing. And you can literally just crush. Nothing innovative. Just take market share by the freaking gallons. Just doing that.
Dude, exactly.
And it's like the easiest shit in the world, right?
That's exactly how we got to where we are now, just literally doing what we promised.
Yeah.
Because every other screen printing shop tells you, oh, we can have your stuff in a week. And three weeks later, 4 weeks later, they still haven't even printed out the films yet or anything like that. So for us, when we started, we'd tell people, first off, we started telling people, like, yeah, we can do it in like 3 days. And that was the hardest thing to maintain as we grew, because we're like, okay, now we're telling these people these fast turns, we have to keep it. But literally just holding that promise is what has gotten us to where we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many shops out there that will make all the promises in the world and then not follow through with any of it.
Dude,
So
I say this all the time, but satisfaction in every single relationship, whether it's your marriage, whether you're dating, whether it's a business partnership, whether it's client, customer, it's 100% just expectations versus performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a million people out there that have no problem. You say 7 days and you perform in 5, fucking love it.
Yeah.
Tell them you're going to do it in 3 and you do it in 4, they hate you. It's true.
Yeah.
It's the way the world works, right?
Mhm.
When you're married now.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been at this for a while.
Right.
For me, it's like, if I tell my wife I'm going to be home at 6 o'clock and I get home at 6:15, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You said you're going to be home at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
I tell her I'm going to be home at 8 and I get home at 7:45. She's like, oh, honey,
Yeah.
thanks.
I just
You
say
know,
8.
You know, we're important to you.
I just say 8 all the time. I never promise before 8.
There you
When
go.
are you going to be home? Sometime around 8. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I do now? You know the little emoji that's like this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
That's my answer. When are you going to be home?
I don't know. At some point.
Yes.
Dude, perfect. Yeah, our wives are actually on vacation in Hawaii right now.
I saw
Yeah.
your wife was posting in Hawaii, and I'm thinking, these dudes are in the cold.
Yeah.
They're on the beach. Man, you
Yep.
guys got it figured out.
Yeah, they planned the Hawaii trip while we were out for drinks, so we're like, well, what are we
Yeah,
gonna
where
do?
do we wanna go?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Let's go visit Wags in
Yeah,
Utah.
yeah.
Let's do it. So a couple, I know some cool, like to get some really cool content for this, like, I want to know, well, and besides even the content, because you and I, right, we haven't talked a lot about like background or whatever, but one thing that people really love is just hearing the story about your background with the military and stuff like that. And because I grew up in Canada, I don't know shit about military. Like,
Oh.
people always ask me a lot about that stuff, but I just got my U.S. citizenship like 6 months ago.
Oh no shit.
So
Dude,
in
congrats,
Canada,
man.
like nobody's in the military. Everybody's like patty cakes and
Peace.
Yeah.
like,
Peace.
growing up in Canada, like I thought it was bad that Americans had guns.
Right.
You know, it's like, guns?
For
Like, you have a
what?
gun? Why would you have a gun in your house? You want to kill
Mhm.
people, you know?
Mhm.
So it's been a lot of reprogramming over the years for me. But one thing that I know about Americans is they love like their vets, they love their military, and then obviously even beyond that, you know, there's some special divisions in the military. They're highly revered and respected. And it sounds like you've got a background in some of those. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of tell us a little bit about how you got into it, how you grew up.
Sure, man. Yeah. So I grew up, I had no intentions of joining the military growing up. In fact, we were just talking about our, our backgrounds over cigars the other night.
Yeah.
So I went to 5 different high schools in 3 different states. I didn't graduate any of them. I dropped out halfway through my senior year. I went to Mammoth, I was a snowboard bum for a year, and then went to Havasu, and I was a jet ski bum for a year. And then that put me at like 19, and I was coming back from Havasu and going to my dad's place or my mom's place or whatever. And I was like, dude, what am I doing? What am I gonna do? Like, who am I as a man, as a person? And I really was at this crux in my life and like, who am I and what am I gonna do? And it wasn't anything like altruistic, like what kind of impact am I gonna have? It was very self-centered of like,
What's my
I
agenda?
have to find myself first. And so I was like, okay, I want to go find the hardest thing I can possibly do and see if I can do that. And it wasn't a mentality like, I'm going to go conquer that. It was like, I want to go see if I can do that. And it was a very realistic,
See what you're
yeah,
made of.
but it was a very realistic expectation. I was like, well, if I can't do that, then I'll find the next hardest thing and the next hardest thing until I find like where I fit on this scale, right? And that'll
Which, by
be
the
like,
way, I don't know if you know, but that's like ass backwards for most people.
Yeah.
The majority of the
I can
world
do
is
this,
like,
now I can
what's
do this.
the easiest shit
Yeah.
I could possibly
Yeah.
do, right? Like path of least resistance. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, but it was that was my goal, right? To find out where on this scale I fell. So I was like, I'm just going to cut some time out and find the hardest thing possible, and then work my way down the ladder until I find out where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so I found the 2 hardest things I could find were climbing Mount Everest and becoming a Navy SEAL. And I didn't have 50 grand to climb Mount Everest, and I knew nothing about the SEAL teams, but they had great branding. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll go research them. So I learned as much as I could. This is 96 or 97, so the internet wasn't what it is today. There wasn't a whole lot of information out there. Read everything I could, read everything about the training protocols, and I started training myself and would do stupid shit like go run 7 miles on the beach and like this, and take a cold shower, like all the dumb stuff that everybody does.
Yeah.
That really doesn't get you any closer to it. Just makes you mentally like
Think
used
you're
to, mentally prepared to get kicked in the nuts more.
Yeah.
And that was my goal. And the more I looked into it, the more I respected those guys, like team guys, Navy SEALs, and I wanted to respect myself that much. That was my main goal, was going in, is I wanted to respect myself as much as I respected those guys. And so I went for it, and but it wasn't anything altruistic. And this is before 9/11 too, so there wasn't anything like super patriotic about it. I just wanted to find out who I was. But it wasn't until I got there and realized what I'd been missing, because I grew up like my dad wasn't in my life growing up. So I didn't understand humor or sarcasm or like guy humor, locker room humor, completely over my head. I was like,
Stiff.
yeah, I was like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, dude. I had no concept of any kind of thing. People tell jokes and be like, I don't know what's going on. So once I got in that, like, super type A guys environment in buds, dude, it really opened up a whole other world for me. And I learned a lot about how to communicate, what the man's world or whatever it is the guy's type of personality, which I'd never grown up around. And dude, it was, once I got into that, I realized the camaraderie and the sense of community and brotherhood that was within that. And that's what made me stay. After that, it wasn't about like, being a patriot or being whatever. It was like, I initially went in for me, and after I was there, it was like, it's for the brotherhood. It's for what we're doing together. I don't care what we're doing or where we're going or who the fuck we're doing it to. It's like, this is for each other completely. That was the early part of it. And then, it went a bunch of different directions, but that's the only reason I went in. So I'd love to say it's something like super patriotic, but it wasn't that. Like, I was lost and I didn't know who I was, and I wanted to find myself and find my place in the world, and got lucky and it worked out.
I think that's realistic though. Like, there's a lot of people that obviously want to put themselves out there as maybe that patriot or whatever. And there are a couple people, we all know there's people
good for them,
like
dude.
that.
Yeah, totally.
And it's fantastic. It's admirable. But I would say, one of the lessons I learned like a long time ago is there's really no wrong reason to do the right thing. And so
it's a great point.
If you're doing it for yourself, but it yields something incredible, whether it's for your country, whether it's for those guys that were around you, whether it's for your future spouse, your future children, like, who cares, man? You're doing a good thing, right? And outside of the military, because for me, growing up, not understanding why that's important, or not understanding why that sacrifice is, and I still have differing beliefs even on military service that, probably contradict a lot of what maybe the American way is. But one thing that I really like about what you just said was, like, you were doing it just to see what you were made of, and you were doing it so you could respect yourself,
right?
Like you respect those other people. And I think that's a factor, or it's at least a trait that maybe some of the most successful people I know have, is that they're not totally contrasting themselves against everybody. They just want a gut check to make sure that they're made of the same shit that the people that they look up to or want to be like are.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed, and that's why most of my friends now are other entrepreneurs, because I've noticed that mentality is just basically persevering through a bunch of shit that happens to you. So like buds, for instance, it's really difficult. Like,
so go through that a little bit. Like, again, I know a lot of people have read up and know it. I don't know anything about buds. I know that you guys damn near drown yourselves and shit like that.
Yeah.
On the beach, but that's it.
Yeah. So the basics
the most fun
are.
part.
Yeah.
I read Goggins' book, so that was cool. But
we just go for swims on the beach.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
chill. Yeah.
San Diego's really
Picnics,
nice.
yeah. So the basics are, buds is about 6 months long, and that's broken up into 3 different phases. There's first phase, and about the middle of that, you have what's called Hell Week, which is by and large like what Navy SEAL training is most known for. It's very difficult. It's you're starting on Sunday and go until Friday, and you don't get any sleep until, I want to say, Wednesday night, and then you get like an hour and a half. So you get a total of like 4 hours of sleep throughout the whole week, and you're running constantly moving, most of it with your boat on your head. I think we did the calculations one time, and it was like, during that week we ran 90 miles with the boat on our head, and probably like probably another 40 miles on top of that without the boats.
on 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, and it's just it's mind blowing, and it's super crazy.
Do you eat much?
Oh, they feed you like crazy. Yeah. It's not like Ranger School. It's just max power output and just duration. But the crazy thing is, like, you'll all hallucinate, but you'll hallucinate the same thing.
Really?
So I remember, like, we were rowing our little boat like through the bay, and we're all, this is like Thursday night, we're all just like, you're basically like clinically insane after like Tuesday night. So they won't really mess with you or anything too much. If you slap your boatmate, they'll just be like, hey, don't do that. But they're not going to get too mad at you.
Because they know you're
basically insane, yeah. So we're rowing our little rubber boat down the bay, and there's these pylons, sticking up from an old pier or something. And we're all looking at it and like, dude, you guys see that mermaid over there? That mermaid's on the thing. We all saw the same mermaid. And we're like, we know there's not a mermaid there, but that damn sure looks like the same fucking mermaid. And it was just weird things. And then like,
Confirmation biases. That was fun.
dude, yeah, but it's
Material.
you have these weird little experiences. Like one time we were off in the ocean, maybe like, 100 yards off, just past the surf zone.
Yeah.
And we're cruising out there, and they have this race called the Around the World race. And it's basically just keeping us up, and we have to paddle around Coronado Island. So we're out there paddling, and we have this officer in our boat crew. So like the enlisted guys are paddling, and the officer's in the back, like steering the boat, And he keeps steering us out to the ocean, and we're all like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, we're going this way. Like, where are we going? And he saw a cruise ship. It's like 7 miles out to sea, like lights on. It's very clearly like a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's our ORC's boat. We got to go get him. I'm like, motherfucker, that's a cruise ship.
It's Carnival, bro.
Yeah,
Like, I know it's Thursday night. I know we're all kind of crazy right now. But like, that's very clearly a like massive cruise ship. It's not a little 7-foot rubber raiding craft. So and he kept doing it. He's like, no, I got it. We're going to steer it straight. And he would keep steering. We eventually had to like take his fucking paddle away. And like, sir, sit in the middle of the fucking boat. We're going to paddle. Like, stop screwing it up for us. But yeah, there's weird little things like that I think you get that with any kind of like hard training or hard military training. But anyway, I've got roundabout on there. But there's the average person can go through buds and they're not going to die. Yeah. Like you're going to survive. Like you won't have a lot of fun, and you'll be hurting, but you won't die. It's just a matter of like, you have to want the end state goal enough to put up with all the shit that goes on to get that.
Yeah, our physical bodies, I mean, even a person that's not in great shape, they could likely endure.
Yeah, you'll
But
survive,
the problem is your mind's going to break way before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurs is very similar. Like there's nobody I know that's successful that's had an easy path to it. Everybody that you see now is successful has had like a path that's very similar like that, where it's just you get knocked down, you get knocked down, you get knocked down. But the guys that succeed are the guys that keep the eye on the prize, have a goal, and they just keep getting up every day, keep moving forward. And that's really what Buds is. It's not any one evolution. It's not any one thing. It's just a cumulative getting up every day at 4 a.m, just knowing that you're going to get your ass handed to you, and waking up and be like, all right, let's go. Let's go. And that's really what it is. And that's why I find similar mindset with a lot of other entrepreneurs, because that's what it takes to succeed in entrepreneurship as well. And those people are like, well, I don't really want it that bad. I don't really want to put in the work. I don't really want to get up early. And like, okay, totally fine. But you're never going to get that goal because that's what it takes.
100%.
So,
it was similar. It's very, there's a lot of parallels from the military to athletics as well.
I
It's the
bet,
same thing
yeah.
for me. And, to be able to make it to the level of playing pro football, like I remember in college, literally waking up scared shitless. Like, I know exactly what practice is going to be. We're in 2 days. It's going to be hell. And every time we finished a sprint and I literally laid down and we had a minute to recover, I thought, there's no fucking way I can take another step. There's no way I can get up. My mind's just playing bitch on me the whole time. As soon as that whistle blows, I'm up and running. Because you're committed to the end.
Commit to it,
There's no way
exactly.
I'm not going to do this. There's no way I'm not playing on Saturday. If I don't do this shit, I'm not playing, There's no way I'm not getting to the level that I wanted. So you play these mental games all the time. But what's interesting to me is that one thing that sets people apart throughout, going from the high school level to the college level to the pro level, and I'm sure happens throughout the military, happens throughout entrepreneurship, and you see the levels of success too, is that, at least for me, like, people always talk about the game of football, the best players can slow it down. Like, you can slow the whole game, pre-snap, get the reads. That's what good offensive quarterbacks do. It's what good defensive players do, is they can just slow everything down. And I think and believe that one of the key characteristics and traits for entrepreneurs or for successful people at all is that not just slowing things down, but minimizing the perspective of what is taking place. Because it's so simple when hard shit hits us for it to just envelop all of us.
Yeah.
Like, this is our whole world. Like, something hits you, smacks you in the face. I can think of those times where I was like, worst times are like, my whole life's over. This is like, it's crushing me. I'm done. I'm fucking done. But as you get more experience, what happens is those hardships, you're able to just minimize them so quickly. Like, okay, yeah, hard, wreck, okay, reset. That's just like, that's going to be a shitty time for a month or a year or 3 years. But I'm going to get through it. You know? And that happens on a daily basis. And the best can say, oh yeah, I'm going to go through hell week for a week, even though at that time it's the worst thing and people are just ready to give up. People are like, hey, I'm just gonna do this for 4 more days. I'm fucking done. You know, it's the same thing with football, same thing for entrepreneurship. If we can just get the right perspective, minimize the hardship, it just makes it so much simpler to get through to where we want to be.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing that you're talking about with like the tool set that you develop.
Yeah.
As you go through anything, you develop these tools, and once you figure out how to use them, it makes it so much easier to be like, oh, I know how to solve this situation before. So instead of being like, you know, I have to put this together, I don't know how. The second time you see it, you're like, oh, well, I have the screwdriver, I can put it here. Oh, I hit it over here. And then the more experience you have, the easier things become. But how do you get experience? By going through some shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's developing that toolkit like is huge. But you have to go through a lot of adversity to develop that. And I don't know anybody that is successful and happy being successful that hasn't gone through a massive amount of shit.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is that, like, I mean, Adam hears me say this all the time, but the most successful people I know in anything, and everybody's like recipe for success is different. Some people money means nothing to them. Some people it's relationships. Some people it's family. Some people it's health. It's fitness. It's that, right? But I don't care what it is. The most successful people I know are literally the best solutions people. They're just good at solutions. They're good at figuring shit out. Like, I got a really close friend. His business is blowing up. He just did $1 million in sales in Black Friday in a product that I think he just started carrying like a month ago. You know, awesome. It's like he's crushing it. He literally went from like 2 years ago, he's an auto mechanic, and now he's, you know, going to do $100 million in sales in e-commerce.
Wow.
And it's like he's blowing it up. But it was funny. He posted a post the other day, and I texted him, but the post was like, one of his employees came in and was like, hey, what are we going to do? This doesn't fit or something like that. And he's like, we'll figure it out. And I was like, I texted him, I'm like, this 100% typifies why you're successful.
Yep.
Because that's the mentality.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Because that's what it takes.
That's what I always tell people. It's my job just to fix shit.
Yeah.
I'm just there to fix shit.
Exactly.
Tell me your issues and I'll fix shit.
Yep. And you know what? It's a wicked skill that very few people realize is super valuable. The better you are at solutions and fixing shit, the more valuable you are to everybody.
And that's a huge part of what we do on the back end is like when a client puts in an order, they're like, okay, I want, 500 orders of this shirt. We're like, okay, cool. We'll make it happen. But on our end, we're like, okay, we got 500 orders. We can only order 200. This warehouse only has 200 of this color in stock and this size. We got to order 200 from here. Or, another 150 from here. Oh, they're out from here. We got to like backlog all this stuff. It comes in. There's so much that goes on the back end. But and then we handle some of that. Mike handles some of that. And then, but by the time it gets packaged up for the consumer, it's all gone.
And it's
like, hey,
seamless for them.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Like, wow, that was easy.
That's what makes a good business. That's what makes a good business
Mm-hmm.
because you're figuring that stuff out. Whereas the person that's not growing, that's not getting repeat business, guess what they're saying when the customer says, "Oh, they're just going to, oh yeah, we just called. They're out of that color. Sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to pick something else.
Yeah, exactly. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
But
that's the one I like.
Yeah. If he wants to grow his business, he wants those fucking shirts. He's going to call somebody else. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like that for every business, and that's what I think. What's interesting too to me is this younger generation of people and entrepreneurs that are seeing success at its most polished state.
Yep.
On Instagram and on social media. They're just like, everybody's an entrepreneur now.
Yeah.
And they think it's going to come easy. And so you get these messages or DMs or whatever, where it's like, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm ready. And it's like, hey man, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But until you actually do something, you're not even going to know if you're ready. Because you got to get kicked in the teeth like 5 times first just to find out.
Yeah.
Dude.
And
exactly.
That's a harsh reality for people.
I love the people on Instagram that say they're an entrepreneur when they like sell Arbonne or something like that. Like
yeah.
they sell, like they're in a pyramid scheme basically.
Yeah.
They sell other people's shit, but on Instagram they're an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
And then their
careful.
stories.
You're in the MLM mecca of the world.
Yeah.
Right? This is like literally like multi-level marketing mecca. I mean, everybody here, and no shit, like half the people I know are entrepreneurs running their own business. You know, the smart part of that is all those guys that own those companies, they're so playing on this hot like buzzword of entrepreneur because they're literally teaching in their meetings, hey, you need to build your own business.
Yeah.
You need to build your own.
Yeah.
So these people are coming in like robots, you know, and selling their shit, thinking they own their own business.
And posting, I'm so happy to have my own business.
Absolutely.
This feels so good.
Yeah, you know,
like,
and,
wait, what?
You know, I get it in the sense of like, hey, you're creating your own income. That's great because you can make.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people make a ton of money in multi-level or direct marketing, and you can really build a business, I guess. What's interesting though is, you know, this entrepreneur. Hey man, there's a lot of stuff that in that space you don't have to figure out that in creating your own real business you really have to figure out.
Yeah, and Instagram, you're only seeing the highlights too.
It's
Everybody's highlight reel.
Yeah.
Highlight reels.
God.
I tell people that all the time. People are like, Wags, you're crushing it. You're so good.
Yeah.
Bought this, you did this and this. And I'm like, bro, the more you see, the less I have. If I wasn't buying all this shit, I'd be collecting zeros in my bank account.
Yeah.
I don't have any of that. I'm buying. The only thing I'm better at than making money is spending money. You know, but it's interesting though. It's because it's totally a highlight reel. And how often is this camera rolling when I'm just sitting here buried at my freaking computer for 12 hours straight? You
Yeah.
know? That shit ain't good content, but people don't realize like that's 80% of it. The 20% is me getting on a jet with my buddies and playing golf and doing the fun, you know, cool stuff. Like that's just like the reward of the business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you got to get kicked in the teeth a few times to appreciate not getting kicked in the teeth some days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck,
When
man.
things go good, you're just like, I know I had a call with my brother yesterday and he had 2 meetings. And the first was with a capital company that I introduced him to for some growth capital, and they extended a $20 million line of credit like at the meeting. He was like, hallelujah. And the next meeting was another company that I introduced him to that was a leasing company that wants to partner with him. And then he's getting an exclusive on buying all their inventory to grow his business. And it was like a home run land.
Wow, awesome.
But it was crazy because he called me. He's like, dude, my day is going so good. Like, what the hell? Because he's an entrepreneur. He's built a business from scratch. He knows the hard shit, the heavy lifting. And he's like, these days don't happen. Like, this is amazing, right? But how good do they feel when you've had the contrast?
Yeah.
Because I think some of these kids, man, if they came in and they wanted to just start doing things and things were going good, I'd be like, dudes, you guys don't even know how good this is for you if it was easy for you, because you just never had the experience of how hard it really is.
And that's what I tell people too. Like, well, where do I start? I want to start a business, and I mean, you get a ton of DMs from people who are just starting out, and I want to help them, but at the same time, like, I can only tell them so much. You know what I mean? That you really need to go out there and do it yourself. And I always equate it to like, have you ever seen, it's Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, I think? And it's just this scene where like he comes to this big opening, right? This big chasm in the middle. And then across this huge gap is where all like the chalices are, right? The blood of Christ, wherever it is. And he's being chased by like some snake or some big rock or whatever. And he's big gap, and he's like, what do I do? And he thinks back and he's like, okay, well, the pious man takes a leap of faith, or whatever the quote is. Basically, you got to take the first step. So there's nothing there. It looks like nothing there. And he's like, fine. And he takes the first step. And once his perspective shifts, he noticed that the path is there, but it was painted to look like there was nothing there. But he couldn't see it until he took that first step. And then the next one, and the next one. And then it became more and more clear. And I think entrepreneurship is a lot like that, where there's so many unknowns and you just don't know where to go. But once you take that first step, everything else aligns with that, and then you'll figure out where the next step is. And then that's just, the path will come for you, but if you wait for it, it will literally never show up. You have to take that first step and just trust that things will happen.
Serve that shit up on a platter.
No.
Like, you got to just do it.
Yeah.
But you make a great point. And honestly, one thing
I got to watch that movie now.
Right.
But one thing that you struck there is like money, is that like you absolutely just have to go. Like for me, I remember when I first started in my business, I literally didn't have a clue. And everybody's like, oh, find a mentor, have a mentor. I'm like, dude, I don't have mentors. I'm from Canada. My parents are broke. Like, who am I going to reach out to as a mentor, you know? And so my learning was always just trial and error. So I just like started going. But one thing I learned very quickly, within like probably the first 5 years of just winning and looking back and seeing like, dang, I'm winning. It was like, it wasn't that I was doing anything perfect or probably anything perfect or the highest and best way or the most efficient way, but I was winning because I was just going.
Yeah.
It was like, and I was making decisions quickly, sometimes the wrong decisions.
You can't win if you don't play the game.
Keep
Yeah,
moving.
and it was just like,
Yep.
I just tell kids, like young people all the time, like, just start doing it. Because can you direct me to 5 courses? Can you send me your top 20 books on entrepreneurship?
Doesn't matter.
No,
Doesn't
just
matter at
start
all.
one.
Yeah.
Just go. Like people want to learn how to flip a house, go buy a house. I don't give a shit if you lose 20 grand on your first house. It's that, or you fall for some slick Rick that sells you a $40,000 credit card course, and then they just run you around in busy work for freaking 60 days or 6 months, and you don't learn shit. You'll learn way more. Go buy a house, figure out how to work with subcontractors, get ripped off by 3 of them, use your ass on a couple things, and guess what? You'll come out of that like, man,
Dude,
I know this way better.
it's
Yeah.
so true.
But that's like every business. I mean,
Well, yeah, because the thing is, people think that like, oh, there's just one thing. They're just hiding it. All these books, they're just hiding it.
Yeah, there's no
this is what
secret.
they talk about it behind closed doors, but they really know. Like, well, what's the real secret?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's this one book, page 37. Oh, there's one line. Now I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. You just have to go and get kicked in the fucking teeth
Yeah.
and keep going. Realize that's a hugely powerful moment too. Like the first time you get hit, like first time you're in a fight too, you get knocked in the face and realize you're not gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
You know, it hurts and you keep going and you're not made of glass. Like that's a hugely powerful moment. You're like, okay, I can take this. If I can
100%.
take this and I can hit back and I can keep going, where can I go with this?
Totally.
And then, you know, may or may not win the fight, but at least you learn a lot about yourself in the
Absolutely.
process.
But it is powerful. Like I've told people multiple times, even on podcasts that I've been on guest on, I've told them like, hey man, I remember the first like 6 years of my career where it was like, I got so lucky. I mean, transitioning from pro football into the distressed real estate market where everything had just crashed.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like 50-60% of licensees were bailing on the business. Everybody had lost their ass in real estate. They're like, it's the worst thing in the world. And I'm coming into it and not knowing shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, hey, this is good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is all, I'm buying this house for half of replacement cost. You literally can't build the house for half of what I'm buying it for. I'm cleaning the carpet, putting a for sale sign on it, and ripping 50 grand. I was like, after a few of these, after 100 my first year,
Wow.
flipping 100 houses,
Damn.
I was literally like, dude, this feels illegal. This is so easy. It's so, and
Somebody's gonna stop me at some point.
no, and no joke. I remember like total douche move, but I was like, I'm gonna put a fucking billboard up that says everything I touch turns to sold. Yes, the best thing ever happens in real estate. You know, this is so easy.
That's awesome.
And looking back, I'm like, man, I was so lucky with timing, but lucky, whatever it is, I was doing it. I was just going, you know. But I remember fast forward, you know, distressed market falls apart, goes, you know, recovers. Now you have to really bring value and ad and development. And there's a lot of projects. We started investing in businesses, companies. Our first couple of companies that we invested in, same kind of thing, like Moonshot. We crushed it. I'm good at everything. Hey, real estate, you know, venture capital, whatever it is. Then the next couple crushed me, like devastating, right? I mean, just wipe out, knockout shots. And I remember thinking, just battling through those for a year or two, losing a ton of money, losing a ton of confidence in myself, like just shattering my shit, right? I remember thinking to myself, like, getting through that, looking back, like I learned way more in 1 year of hard, bad, rough, like shitty times than 7 years combined of just like printing money.
Dude,
You don't learn anything in that.
No.
There was nothing, like I didn't refine myself. I was just opportunistic and I was going, and that's great. That's part of the recipe, right? But it's like, I'm way better having gone through the hard stuff. And so for me, I looked at it like, man, this is just a blessing, setting me up for the next opportunistic time in my life because now I know how to dot my I's and cross my T's, and now I know how to underwrite better, and now I know how to insulate my business and my mindset. And quite frankly, I just have way more confidence because even though it got shattered, now taking yourself through that, now you're like, dude, what could anyone throw at me that I haven't?
Dude, that's it's
like,
training though, man.
Yes.
That's the reason that I went to SEAL training. That's the reason
Yeah.
that you're so much better now is because you went through the training of dealing with all that hard shit, man. It's the same thing. That's awesome.
So when people don't want to fail, I just tell them, yeah, you do. just try to
Trust me,
just try to
it'll work
limit
out.
how expensive that failure is.
Right?
But yeah, you need the lessons, you need the insulation, and one of the best things you can do, other than obviously just the experience, is try to learn from other people's mistakes. I mean, that's one thing that I've really tried to do. It's hard
way
to do.
cheaper.
Yeah, way cheaper, way rougher, or
Faster
easier
too.
Yeah,
Oh,
faster.
man.
So yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, when people say go find a mentor, I've always, at least for me, I've always had a really hard time with that. Like, I know it's important because there's a lot of successful people that say it, but I've just had a hard time, like, how to identify a mentor and then how to provide enough value that you can actually extract from them while you're trying to build your own shit. That's been like, so when people ask me for the mentorship, I always think to myself, like, how can I give that without distracting from my path?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of at least why now I'm at least spending a little bit of time creating content so that it's not like it doesn't have to be a one-on-one. I'm just hoping people can like learn the stuff that I wanted to learn that I didn't have anybody to ask.
Well, that's the thing. There's so many people to learn from on the internet now that are putting out fantastically good information
Content.
for free. I'm like,
free.
dude, you don't need a mentor. You have thousands of them. Just, pick and choose the right ones that are actually doing real shit.
Yep.
But dude, you have more information now at your fingertips than at any point in human history.
Ever.
It's easier to
My
start a
wife's
business
always like, why are you on Instagram all the time? I'm like, you know how much shit is on here? Like, this is full of valuable shit.
100% all the time. I mean, people don't realize, like, YouTube, you can go spend like $100,000 in university and online courses, or you can literally just spend time on YouTube Googling shit or whatever, watching videos. You'll learn from the very best in the entire business. They're giving you their shit for free.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Dude, I Google
insane.
shit all the time.
Yeah.
Literally, just in a conversation, you're like, I don't know, let me Google it. Like, it's
Yeah.
all,
But like,
it's
I mean,
all
10
there.
years ago, 15 years ago, like, I remember when I was in freaking school, I wanted to do a book report. I didn't have Google. I had to go to the library or get encyclopedias.
The Dewey Decimal System in there.
Exactly. Dewey Decimals. Yes, exactly. And kids nowadays don't
Like,
what?
what?
That, right?
Yeah, they have
But it's-
Spark Notes where it gives you the
exactly.
entire
But now it's
report.
like these kids can literally just go to YouTube. They can not only learn any subject matter in 100% like comprehensive, like the full boat, but they can actually learn it from like the best people in the entire world too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Dude, it blows my mind, man. People are like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Like, dude, neither did anybody else.
Yeah.
Just go fucking do something.
All right,
and
so
stop
we're
complaining.
going to start a little course so that when we'll have Adam film it, and it's going to be like a 30-minute or a 20-minute, so that every single one of us and our friends that get that message, we're just going to cut and paste this little link, and the video is going to say, hey man, I know you're asking for a start, and you want to know where, and here's what we're going to tell you. Down below, there's a little box that says fucking Google. Google it.
Google that shit.
And then just sit there and watch videos for like the next month. And then do something. Do something, anything.
Yeah.
And then
Learn
once
and
you've done it
execute.
for like 90 days or 120 days or 6 months or a year, and you have actual questions about how to navigate your business, then reach out to me.
Relevant questions.
Yeah,
Oh
you
my
know?
God. Yeah.
Because that's the hard part for me is I'm not like, I don't say this to be a douche. I actually really do want to pay it forward and like help people and be what I didn't have. But I just don't see a scalable way that I can do it when people are just asking like the most open-ended questions, like what do I do?
Yeah.
Well,
How do I
don't
start
even
an
know what's
LLC?
important to you in life, you know?
Dude,
What's happiness to you? What are your goals? Like those, I can't give you even an answer to that. But if you go figure out what the fuck you want, how you want to do it, what your goals are, what the timeline, now you're in a business and you have specific questions and you can fire them off, yeah, fantastic. I'd love to answer those and then put it out there and maybe it helps, 500 people.
Well, that's how I learned too. Like I was building and running my own brands for I think 8 years before I started the current company working with other brands. But dude, after I started working with other brands, dude, the first 3 years I learned way more than I did in the previous 8, because when I was running my own brands, I only saw my own problems and I could only solve them with my own perspective on things. But once we started working with other brands and seeing their problems, how everybody was solving these different problems, and realizing there's similarities to all of them, even outside of the apparel business, like every business, it became so much easier for us to find these solutions and basically give free information to people, because it was all there. But it wasn't until I started working with other brands and other perspectives and finding other people's problems that it became easier for me to understand things at a different level. So now, man, I love those questions, because that allows me to, like, I've never heard of that question before. I don't know. Let me go and find an answer for that, because now I'm curious.
Yeah.
And now when I hear this question again, I'll know the answer. Yeah. So I find, like, I love getting those questions that are relevant and useful for them, because then I learn. You know, that's how I've been able to learn.
I do too. And what's interesting is, like, I mean, obviously we have a bunch of portfolio companies, and I'm act as a board member or right down to operations. And sometimes I find myself within my own company, you know, running up against the wall, which is so interesting in contrast to when I'm put in a position where I'm kind of removed and I can see things so much more clearly than the guys that, right? But it's so wild, because it comes back to the, like, hey, you can't see the forest when you're standing in the trees. And it's real. It's super real. Like, I love actually going into industries or businesses that I have little to no knowledge or experience, and somebody painting the picture of where their business is, and then them outlining what their barriers to growth or success are, and then just being able to ask questions. And it's so interesting how quickly you can make breakthroughs for people, because it's a new perspective,
outside perspective,
view on things. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes is, like, when who was it? I think it was Bill Gates. He said, hey, if you want to find the most efficient way to do something, go hire the laziest person you know. You know? And funny, but it's true. Like, I mean, lazy person wants to be efficient. They don't want to do the hard work, the heavy lifting. They're just going to figure out the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that even applies in outside counsel. Sometimes you just need to elaborate, collaborate with your friends and get those different perspectives, because they're going to see things that you're not going to see, or they're used to doing things and figuring things out maybe the easier way than what you are. I mean, I know that a lot of times for me, like, developing a good work ethic, what happens with entrepreneurs that have great work ethic, that aren't afraid of hard work, a lot of times they're not doing it the most efficient way, because they're not lazy. Yeah. They're like, hey, this is going to be hard. No problem. I'll just start the heavy lifting. Let's go. One foot in front.
I do that all the time.
But how many times, like, you have somebody come in and, like, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't know any other way. I saw it and I just started going, you know?
Yeah, like, hard work is great, but dude, you got to be efficient at some point. I equate it to, like, traction, right? So a lot of guys, especially when you're starting out in business, you got a massive amount of fuel, right? And you got a high horsepower engine, super motivated. You're like, cool, I'm gonna go do all this work. But you have no fucking traction. So you just sit there and do a burnout. You're like, I'm pouring all this fuel, I'm doing all this work. And you go like 2 feet, you know? And then you're like, eventually you run out of fuel, you run out of gas, you run out of money, you run out of motivation, you run out of runway, or you miss the market.
Run out of people, whatever.
So, yeah, but you have to become efficient at some point, and not just do burnouts the whole way. You know what I mean? You have to, okay, I have this much gas, I have this much runway, there's where I want to go. I need to feather, you know, the throttle a little bit. I need to, you know, scale myself and my time and my capabilities, and
get some momentum.
Yeah, get some wheels that actually fucking stick. You know what I mean? Like, change your practices and your systems and your processes to be more efficient. Digitize some of those things. And then once you start getting traction, now you're moving towards your goals. Because it's fun to do burnouts. It feels good to do work, you know? I'm fucking working my ass off. But at the end of the day, like, the goal is to get somewhere. Yeah. So you get stuck in that.
I come from an industry of literally, I think, the epitome of busy workers. Mm-hmm. So I started, when I transitioned from football, I got my real estate license as a realtor. And realtors to me are like the number one busy workers. Like, anytime they can set up a lunch or a meeting or a conference or this, it's like they feel like they're working, and it's all just busy bullshit that does nothing. And it's like I learned really quickly because I thought, oh, I got to learn as much as I can in the business. So I was going to every luncheon and every title company that had a free C class and every networking event and whatever. And that's great because your business is relationship business. But like at some point, you got to just dig in, like do the hard shit. And it wasn't until I met somebody who was like, hey man, I'm the number one guy here because I wake up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm cold calling for sale by owners. And I do this and I do that. And it's just hard. You're getting 25 no's and then maybe one appointment and that guy flakes on you 5 times. But that's what it takes to get things going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because people feel really good working hard, but are we working smart?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, I always say I need to stop swapping the decks and steer the ship, because it's really easy for me to walk in the back and just start helping out, start loading shirts, doing all the stuff. But I have to constantly remind myself, like, you're actually hurting the company by doing that. Yeah. You're not doing any good.
The CEO's working for $12 an hour now.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're all watching me do that, and like then they start doing their job a little less because I'm doing it for them.
Sure. And we do that. I have to pull people back into their lane every day in my office, because we have a really cool team culture within my executive team where everybody's willing to like pitch in and step in and help out and whatever. But it almost is like it's a double-edged sword sometimes because everybody's like, hey, I'll help you with this. And it's like, guys, we got to divide and conquer. You got to stay in your lane. Yeah. And as soon as you're in the store working with one of these people, even Mike is like a workhorse, the guy knows everything. But I constantly have to pull Mike up out of the slums. I use that in a derogatory term, but like out of the freaking like weeds where he's just grinding. And I'm like, Mike, you can't be doing this. You have to be doing your highest and best because you're a boss. You're a guy that needs to be doing this, this, and this. And and he snaps out of it real quick. But it's like, we need to do that to ourselves often too. Just like, hey, why are we trading our time for what our employees making $12 an hour? Yeah. Not the best use of our time.
Yeah. Outside perspective is powerful, man. Like even the stuff we were talking about earlier, dude. Like having your Mike's perspective on our businesses, like, dude, whole new thing. Yeah. Whole new thing. Yeah. It's cool.
It's invaluable. I just know that when I have those powwows, which is often like I learn a lot. Typically the people learn a lot. It's just nice to have different perspectives on your business because sometimes it just fires like even a light turns on. You're like, oh shit, I could do that.
This show was created with the sole purpose of being able to inspire other people and to be able to give back.